we will tackle this time about principle of teaching. By the way, I'm Lisa Francisco. So when you say principle, it is the rules that guide or influence thought or actions. So, principle of teaching is a set of principles to guide the course of teaching. It is first necessary to understand the meaning of principles. So, importance of principles of teaching is that true principles explain the educational processes. They show how things are done and how educational results are achieved. So, in principle of teaching has three authors. They are James L. Moses, John Dewey, and Carnegie Mellon. So, in James L. Moses has 6 principles of teaching. The first principle is principle of context. It is educational management has been considered as one interesting subject, particularly by the educators who are aware of the need for knowledge management. But when one talks of knowledge management, it becomes necessary to analyze the meaning of the word knowledge in different perspectives. So, in principle of context has 6 levels. The level 1 is context consists of the textbook only. It is a set of instruction through the use of textbook only. It is predominantly verbal, in the responses are limited only to questions from that text. This kind of learning situation is characterized by the absence of problem-solving experience for the learners. Instruction revolves around interpretation or analysis of the context of the subject matter. Level 4 is focus established as a concept or a problem to be solved. A skill to be acquired to carry an undertaking. At this level, a learner is expected to draw implications from experiences in the classroom environment and arrive at the meaning of the situation based on acquired facts and information. This level is more on flexibility and acquisition of more facts and information. So the third principle is principle of socialization. Principle of socialization, classroom learning offers a social culture phenomenon, a social process that encompasses the ways of thinking, interacting, and problem solving. The classroom is also viewed as a conventionalized setting in which rule-bound interaction takes place between the learner and the teacher. So, when you say socialization or the principles of socialization, to make new members of society familiar with social tradition, manners, costumes, and etc. These principles is to prepare the members of the society to adapt to the constantly changing environment and then also to lead to education through a process of social interaction. So the principle of socialization has 3 levels. Level 1 is a social pattern characterized by submission. This level 1 is a setting where interaction if at all, is limited to the teacher and the learner. So this level 1 is more on rudimentary level of socialization, maybe no group function, or teacher controlled. The level 2 is social pattern characterized by contribution. This setting is more liberal. Learners enjoy a certain amount of freedom to engage themselves in activities and work on their own. So this level is more on sympathetic and positive discipline, like freedom and lack of authority. The 3 level is social pattern characterized by cooperation. In this setting, teacher assumes the role of an organizer. He divides the class into group or subgroup to afford a more active learner involvement. So the level 3 goes beyond friends, lines, and sympathy. And teacher must or teacher as an organizer, or this level has a positive team spirit.
Sequence is a movement from meaningless or emergence of the meaning, from immediate towards remote, from constitute towards symbolic, from the crude to the discriminating. So the summary of this is the principles of sequence instruction depend uh, is sequence. It is a movement from meaningless. When you give an instruction, it depends on how the effectiveness furthering the learning task, or a lesson that a touch on the lesson that you will be give a clear instruction that they can precise or and concise the instruction of your students will be eventually get the point of your instructions. Now we'll proceed the application sequence through logical successions of blocks of content. The summary of this is teachers must disappointed when their student cannot catch up their lessons. And one way to make the students understand is to make the learners observe the lesson. For example, the comprehension of the learner's learning. The second is the sequence through knocking learning lessons course together by introductions, previews, pretests, and reviews. This is done by the supplementing discussion, studies, analysis of lessons by the instruction reviews related to the lessons. The summary of this is in this sequence, this is be done in a supplementing discussion, studies, analysis of the lesson by introduction and reviews of the lessons that lead to the lesson. This is a effective way to easy to understand the lesson. The third is sequence organized in terms of readiness. The summary of this sequence is this is now the teachers organize his or her instruction for the student with the students' readiness to meet the goal of objective of the teachers. The fourth sequence is sequence of organized in terms of lines, emerging, or meaning. The summary of this sequence it is called planning or a specific learning task that will be dependent on the abilities of the learners that to give meaning in a specific situation. For example, by teaching poetry, for the instance of the focus on how to read the poetry, on how or he or she pronounce the words of the poetry. Now, the last principles is the principles of evaluation. Principles of evaluation is a component of effective instruction. It is necessary to determine whether the objective of instructions have been carried out and learning or understanding of lesson has taken place. The learning of the principles of evaluation is the learning is heightened by a valid and discriminating appraisals of all its aspects. Now, the types of evaluation is diagnostic evaluation. The diagnostic evaluation is done at the beginning of the unit or course to determine the different levels to where the students can be grouped, whether slow or average or fast. The summary of this evaluation is in this process it is when the teacher is able to determine the inadequate inadequacy or difficulties that learners are in to propose a remedial measures to solve a existing problems are ready for an reference. Now, the second evaluation is formative evaluation. The formative evaluation is this evaluation is intended to improve the delivery of instruction in the classroom. The summary of this formative is intended to improve the delivery of instruction. Also, this is designed to examine the whatever process of instruction. That's all. Now, the last evaluation is summative evaluation. The summative evaluation is this phase of evaluation calls for summing up all pertinent data related to the performance of the individual learners. At the end of the year, the final ratings of the learners will quantify how much the learning is achieved to emerate a promotion. The summary of this evaluation is this is to summing up the total of the performance of the learners at the end of the semester. The total of ratings or the evaluation of their performance. That's all. Once again, I am Princess Tanika A. Apali. I'm reporting about the 6 principles of James Marcel. That's all. Thank you.
Hi ma'am, hi guys, good morning. I am Jamil M. Dalawis, the third reporter, and today I will going to discuss about John Davis' educational philosophy on principles of teaching. So, as we all know, John Dewey is an American philosopher, psychologist, and educational reformer whose ideas have been influential in education and social form. So, these are the following acknowledged principle of good teaching according to John Dewey. So, first is teaching is good when it is based on the psychology of learning. So, this is based on the concept that the child is made on the center of the educative process. So, the nature of the child and the nature of the learning process and the laws that governs its operation determine the type of teaching to be done by the teacher. So in these principles, it simply implies that children must be the center of learning, wherein they should have a healthy nature, which is psychologically friendly, and also they are mentally stable, so that the learning process will flow smoothly into the children. So, as we all know naman, as a children, it's really important for them to have a healthy nature. that the learning will occur effectively. So just like for an instance is for those elementary school, 'di ba? 'Di ba teachers, I mean students and learners can learn everywhere. But iba pa rin, it is really different when they are inside the class. When they are inside the class, they learn more. They better understand more about certain topic. And as a teacher, 'di ba, most of all in the elementary school, they are making their classroom more attractive and and attractive and attentive to those students so that they could catch up the attention of the student. So be able for the student or learners to better understand or learn more. So the teacher must what's that? He or she must know the psychology of learning of the student. So, when we go naman into the junior high, di ba, before we formally begin with the discussion, mostly our teacher give us a post test. So, that post test serve for the teachers to know where or what particular areas that his or her student needs some improvement and where they are good at. So in that way, he can easily recognize and can cater the student effectively. So indeed, teaching is good when it is based on the psychology of learning. And the second one is the second principle is teaching is good when it is well planned. So the activities and experience of the learners are continuously related and interrelated into larger, more meaningful, more inclusive relation patterns. So as an a future educator and as a teacher, you should always be prepared. A day before the discussion, you should already assemble, organize all the things that you need for that discussion, so that during the discussion, there will be no distraction and hesitation for you because you all already prepared all the things that you needed. Just like for example, if you want to have a PowerPoint presentation, so you should make sure that you have already the projector. You already have that projector in you, so that at times of discussion, right, it will just play it and you will just going to discuss and student will just listen to you. So indeed, teaching is a good when it is well planned. And next will be teaching is good when the learner is made conscious of the goal or aims to be accomplished. This concept calls for proper motivation. So I firmly believe that as a teacher, we must not just as a teacher, we must be also a motivator. It's our responsibility to teach, but the greatest thing about being a teacher is we can motivate someone to become more better about themselves. So as a teacher, we should become a motivator for our student, wherein our student become more goal-directed individuals that is conscious enough to attain certain things which can be beneficial for their own growth. So once we already motivated our student and our student become motivated enough to learn, so he or she must eager siya matuto. So in that way, it will be easy for us as a teacher, and it will be a great advantage for us kasi nga we can already get their full attention and they're really eager to learn. So we need to become a great motivator for our student. So next will be teaching is good when the learner is made no. Teaching is good when it provide learning experiences or situation will ensure understanding. So in this Teaching is good when it provides learning experiences or situation that will ensure understanding. So, good teaching requires a rich environment of instructional materials and devices. So, as a great teacher, we should not just focus on a certain things. If it is necessary, during the discussion, we could share our experiences so that our student can relate to us. Thus, by the means of the experience, we better connect with the student. If it is necessary, we must give some example that is based on our experience so that it will be easy to be understood by the children. So next is teaching is good when there is provision to meet individual differences. So, this is based on the psychological principle that individuals differ from each other in their learning potential. So, as we understood by the children. So, next is teaching is good when there is provision to meet individual differences. So, this is based on the psychological principle that individuals differ from each other in their learning potential. So as we all know, there are multiple intelligence. Every student have a unique way or approach in learning. So dapat despite of those differences, we teacher can meet their can meet their needs and give them an education or a learning that they deserve despite of their social status, religions, or different approach in learning. So next will be teaching is good when it utilizes the past experience of the learner. So when we say past experience of the learner, it is more about the prior knowledge of the student. So the prior knowledge of the student must be considered so that we can easily recognize in which particular area that they are good at and what are the possible things that we can do to improve their learnings. So, as a teacher, we should assess our student if their prior knowledge is right or wrong so that we could improve their prior knowledge and increase it, and it will become a great advantage for them for their own learning. So next will be the teaching is good when the learner is stimulated to think and to reason. The best teaching method is that which liberate and encourages thinking. Effective teaching involves differentiation and integration or analysis and synthesis. So, as a teacher, we should also encourage our student to participate in the class, to share their insight about something or to share their ideas about an important matter. So by the means of sharing their ideas, we could not just limit it to one perspective, but we could also see others' opinion from a different point of view. So as what stated by John Pauling 2018, to have a better idea is to have a lot of ideas. So we should have a lot of ideas. We should get at many ideas from our student so that we could come up to a one better ideas. So next one is the teaching is good when it is governed by democratic principles. So when we say democratic principles, it is more about having a fair treat of individuals or student. We equally treat individuals or student despite of their differences. So we should, in this case, we should avoid bias and favoritism. If ever there will be a favoritism in the class, it will be unfair for those students. Kasi, that favoritism will lead to unmotivated. It couldn't motivate a student. However, to have To avoid that favoritism, we should not let our student be closer to us. It is okay to be close to them, but always remember we should always set boundaries. We are a teacher, and we should know that. So next will be the teaching is good when the method used is supplemented by another method and instructional devices. So it is an accepted fact that a good method is a synthesis of many methods. So I believe that as a great teacher, we should be a multitasking individuals that are having a lot of initiative in their minds, so that we could cater student in their unique way of learning. So in this way, we should not just limit it into one certain method, but we could also supplement it with another method. Just like for instance, if you are more into a traditional way of teaching, like pasting Manila paper on the blackboard, and you let your student to write that, and after a day you will discuss that. So if you are into that, why not you could use the innovation of technology, so that you could become you can increase or improve your teaching strategy more, since most of the students are into technology. So why not we could use technology so that we could easily catch up their attention. Just like for instance, instead of letting them write a certain topic, ganon, it will be mas sayang yun sa oras. So instead of ganon, why not we play na lang a video presentation, and with the use of technology na nga, we play a video presentation, so that by listening, they will already learn from that certain matter, especially when it regards the mathematics. So mathematics, it really needs more explanation, because one simple problem has a lot of solutions. Next will be teaching is good when evaluation is made an integral part of teaching process. So I believe evaluation is part and a parcel of teaching. Evaluation measures the effectiveness of teaching and learning, and completes the function which is essential in teaching. So I believe evaluation should always be an integral part of teaching process. By the means of evaluation, the effectiveness of the teacher will now take in place, wherein when it has a positive outcome, then it means he or she achieved his goals. Indeed, they are an effective teacher or educators. But when it goes another way around, maybe the teachers are lacking for something, but then it's not his fault. Remember, we teacher, our responsibility is to teach our student. Pero kung wala naman kahit
I'm Robicam Tawakal. My topic is all about Carnegie Mellon teaching principles. We have 7 types of effective teachings. The number 1 is effective teachings involve acquiring relevant knowledge about the student and using that knowledge to inform our course design and classroom teaching. For example, when one teach, he did not just teach the content, but he also teach the student the content. A variety of the student characteristics can be affect learning. For example, student cultural and generational backgrounds influence how they see the world. Disciplinary backgrounds lead students to approach problems in different ways. The difference per knowledge, both accurate and accurate aspect, shape new learning, although we cannot accumulate measure of these characteristics. Number 2. Effective teachings involve aligning the 3 major components of instructions. They are learning objective, assessment, and instructional activities. The third part, effective teachings involve articulating explicit expectations regarding learning objectives and policies. There is preparation expected of learners across classroom and within the given principles. For example, what continuous evidence may differ greatly across courses. What is principal collaboration in one course could be considered cheating in another. As a result, student expectations may not match ours. This is being clear about our expectations and communicating them implicitly helps students learn more and perform better. Articulating our learning objective, the knowledge and skills that we expect the student to demonstrate by the end of the course. Given students a clear target to aim for and enable them to monitor their progress along the way. The next one, effective teachings involve prioritizing and knowledge and skill we choose to focus on. Coverage of this course must have focus. A single course must not have too many topics that may work against student learning. And also determining a set of objectives can be reasonably accomplished. These are the more effective teachings. Effective teachings involve recognizing and overcoming blind spots. Effective teachings involve adapting appropriate teaching roles to support our learning goals. The learners are supposed to be responsible for their own learnings, but the teacher's roles are critical in guiding their thinking and behavior. These roles should be chosen in service of the learning objective and in support of the instructional activities. For example, if the objective is for students to be able to analyze argument from a case or written text, the most productive instructor roles must be framed, guide and moderate discussions. If the objective to help the student learn to define their positions or create choices of their present their work, our role to be challenges them to explain their decisions and consider alternative perspective. Such role may be constant or variable across the semester depending on the learning objectives. And lastly, effective teachings involve progressively refining our courses based on reflections and feedback. Teachings requires adapting. Teachings involves make changes when appropriate. When something is not working, try something new. Knowing what and how to change requires to explanation of relevant information on teaching effectiveness. Based on such data, we might modify the learning objective, content, structures, or format of the course, or otherwise adjust our teaching. It's more purposeful. Changes driven by feedback and our priorities are most likely to be manageable and effective.